The Dipliosteus is currently being
This creature that we all hoped would stay extinct has reappeared the land and the sky.
For those of you who have been here for a while, you likely already know one of my biggest fears, the T-Rex. Now when I was younger, I actually used to be quite into dinosaurs. I thought they were really interesting to read about, and I loved the Jurassic Park movies. However, once I had my first face-to-face encounter with one in a dream, all bets were off, and the T-Rex quickly became one of my biggest fears. Now while this fairly new analog horror series I stumbled upon doesn't seem to have any T-Rexes, it appears to not be that far off. Prehistoric Emergence. Now if I had to use my detective skills to guess what this series is about based on that title, it certainly sounds like our world is about to be overrun with animals from the prehistoric eras. It'll be a nice change of pace in the analog horror setting, returning to the horrors that exist in nature. Honestly, when you think about it, just nature alone is downright terrifying when you look closely. As always, be sure to check out the original series before we dive into the Land Before Time together. But enough yapping, let's get into this potential nightmare of prehistoric emergence. But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below as it really helps support the channel. And if you want to see more, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Letterboxd. Alright, now you can pass through. Episode 1. Our series starts out in classic analog horror fashion, an emergency alert system warning us to not enter the ocean. You don't have to tell me twice. As it turns out, every single coastal region and beach across the nation are to be evacuated and shut down until further notice. This also includes all water-related activities like boating, fishing, and swimming are strictly prohibited at this time. Sounds like Jaws has come for revenge. According to the alert system, there have been reports of previously extinct species reappearing across the ocean, and to make matters worse, they are exhibiting aggressive behavior. Unfortunately, as of this moment, it isn't known how these animals have returned from extinction, but it is theorized that they came from this big blue hole in the middle of the ocean. It's believed this hole leads to a hidden region where all this time, these once extinct species continue to exist. Given how little we know about the ocean, who knows if a hole like this is truly out there.
Prime hole, Jane.
But what extinct species has made this triumphant return? I could never remember how to pronounce this. There's going to be a lot of these, forewarning. There's a lot of words here that are hard. Okay. As of this moment, the Mosasaurus, the Dunkleosteus, and honestly the most frightening of them all, the Megalodon. See, as a kid, I may have enjoyed reading about dinosaurs, but the Megalodon is a different story. I was always afraid of the Megalodon. I remember a specific video where that damn creature flies out of the ocean and takes out a nearby helicopter. Scary stuff, I tell ya. The first creature we highlight is the Mosasaurus, with a mouthful of razor-sharp teeth that can easily rip things apart. This guy is going to cause some problems. Given the fact that it eats literally anything and everything, even humans, our ecosystem within the sea is going to be brutally disrupted. This bad boy can grow up to 50 feet in length, and while humans can swim at about 2 to 3 miles per hour, the Mosasaurus can go 30, so I think it's safe to say we are pretty screwed. The majority of these guys have been found across the Atlantic Ocean, and they have already claimed some lives, with reports of small boats being capsized and the passengers becoming lunch. I hate the idea of being out in the ocean enough, and this is just giving me more justification, especially considering this next scene.
Beware that mosasaurs will stick their head above the water to scan their surroundings. If you see this, leave the vicinity immediately.
We now shift our focus on the Dunkleosteus, which from now on I will refer to as the Dunkle. While it may say this was the world's first apex predator, that title is actually held by this guy. But hey, second place isn't too bad. What separates the Dunkle from others is the fact that it has an almost armor-plated head, and standard bullets are going to do absolutely nothing. But harpoons and high-velocity bullets will do the trick. The Dunkle may be smaller than the Mosasaurus, being at around 13 feet in length, but its bite force is greater than 6,000 psi. I gotta say, these underwater shots with these big creatures is a legit nightmare.
Its size and maneuverability allows it to attack swiftly and without warning. The Dipliosteus is currently being investigated for additional weaknesses.
To make matters even worse, the Mosasaurus just ate humans alongside everything else, but the Dunkle is exceptionally aggressive against humans. It's said the only way to survive one is just to be lucky enough to never encounter it. But now it's time for the true enemy, the Megalodon, the ultimate predator. The The megalodon is said to eat around 2,500 pounds of food a day. If we thought the mosasaurus was bad for the ecosystem, just you wait. We've already had a massive drop in marine life, and it's going to keep plummeting. This beast can grow over 60 feet long, the biggest we've seen yet, and its jaw can fit 2 adult humans, not to mention its 7-inch teeth. This creature is on track to devastate the ocean, putting a lot at risk, even my sanity, because the idea of this thing coming back is haunting. The broadcast ends with a message asking us to do our part by listening to these instructions
and being willing to assist financially with the management of these sea monsters.
Trust me, you won't find me anywhere near the water. This episode ends off on a very grim note.
For now, the ocean is no longer in our control.
If I'm being honest, I don't think the ocean has ever been in our control. What an excellent start to the series. It's a nice change of pace to explore these once extinct creatures returning to our time. And I like that we even get to learn about each species as they appear. You get to be afraid, but also educated. Luckily, the only creatures that have come back have been exclusive to the ocean. Hopefully nothing changes. But given the thumbnail for the next episode, I think we're in for a new wave. Episode 2. We open up on a breaking news report talking about even more prehistoric animals making a return. Turns out more of those deep holes began forming on land. Sounds like the ocean isn't our only issue. At least the public is being kept informed, for the most part. We are advised to keep away from the newly formed caves and to stay tuned to keep updated. However, in Australia, things aren't looking too good as reports of a massive lizard has been attacking the area, specifically the Megalania, which can grow up to 23 feet. Where's Spider-Man when you need him? It's recommended to keep away from nearby forests considering this giant lizard is very good at blending in. Yet that may not even be enough considering one was reported in downtown Sydney. Our next returning creature is actually one we're happy to see return, the mammoth.
The woolly mammoth has made its glorious return.
They may be large and heavy, but they aren't considered dangerous unless provoked. But humanity can't have nice things, so it's said mammoths are already being hunted for their tusks. Bastards. In Toronto, however, their zoo will be the first in history to house one of the mammoths. We're then taken back to our situation under the sea, and sure enough, the megalodon is doing what it does best, destroying the ocean's ecosystem. But it sounds like a new ocean creature may have what it takes to stop its destruction. A giant killer sperm whale, whose name is hard to pronounce, has the power to kill megalodons, growing to around 60 feet. Even though the megalodon has the highest bite force, the whale's teeth are way longer and angled in a way that gives it the advantage. Not to mention, it has more intelligence, giving it a 65% win rate. However, if the megalodon manages to sneak up on the whale, the odds shift. The hope is that the existence of these two giant foes will somehow keep the other in check. But once we return to land, things may have just gotten even worse. Colombia and India have entered a state of emergency due to prehistoric snakes emerging. Snakes are also a big fear of mine, so God forbid I ever encounter one of these. These snakes can get to about 45 feet in length and are of course aggressive towards humans. The first snake is the Titan boa, which is an aquatic snake, so once again large bodies of water are to be avoided. But that's not the only new snake. The Vasuki indicus is here to take over the land. Just like how the megalodon was destroying the ocean's ecosystem, this snake is here to destroy the swamps. Luckily, the waterways around Colombia are being closed to keep this thing from spreading around the world. There have already been 108 unprovoked attacks from this snake, and people are starting to call for the army. In an interesting turn of events, we learn that the snake was named after a divine serpent that is regularly seen around the neck of the Hindu god Shiva. And some people already believe this prehistoric emergence is his wrath. A new international organization ends up getting formed to combat this emergence, the Global Prehistoric Affairs Commission, or GPAC. But we learn that other governments are attempting to bomb these deep holes that the animals keep coming from. We then listen in on an audio recording from one of the workers who heard a strange sound coming from one of the holes. I don't know about you, but I'm getting the fuck out of here.
I'm getting the fuck out of here. No, you're not, Griff.
That's the sound of a T-Rex, and things just got a whole lot more frightening. The final thing we hear in this entry is that it's possible all these other animals ran out of these holes in fear of something worse. And I don't blame them if worse means T-Rex. Something I want to quickly go back to is the mention of Shiva. No, not the Mortal Kombat character, but the Hindu god that is commonly known as the god of destruction, but also reconstruction. Perhaps the people were right, And all of this is Shiva's wrath, laying out destruction for the whole world. Episode 3. We open up our latest episode and come to find out, Prehistoric Emergence has now gotten its own definition. We then quickly cut between multiple breaking news reports. The first is about yet another fishing boat being capsized by the Mosasaurus, with 4 casualties and no survivors found. The next is about reports of Megalania eggs being found in their basements. They are getting in people's homes now. The worst is yet to come, as Montana has no idea what's about to hit it.
A terrifying discovery has been made in Billings, Montana, as a dangerous creature that we all hoped would stay extinct has reemerged. This creature is known as the Tyrannosaurus.
We quickly cut to another update from the Global Prehistoric Affairs Commission. They have decided to stop bombing all the holes as new ones keep forming faster and faster around the world, and we're unable to keep up with them all. It sounds like all efforts have now gone towards just trying to survive the emergence, and potentially find a way to live in this new era. A new rule has been imposed where people aren't allowed to live within 1 mile of one of these holes. Luckily, if you just so happen to already be a mile from a hole, you're eligible for relocation aid. The people in Texas don't seem to be as lucky, as a new flying predator has been spotted.
Quetzalcoatlus.
It's been identified as the Quetzalcoatlus, which is the largest flying creature ever known. It's also likely this thing won't be exclusive to Texas for long. This guy can get up to 15 feet tall, and flying speeds of 80 miles per hour. First our oceans get taken over, then the land, and now the skies. Pretty soon, nowhere is going to be safe. When talking about how to stay safe in the presence of this creature, the text at the bottom very quickly changes to something else. Is this the wrath of Quetzalcoatl punishing us? Quetzalcoatl is an Aztec deity who is frequently depicted as a feathered serpent. We continue to get more terrifying facts about this Quetzalcoatlus, like how its beak is toothless, so you're getting swallowed whole. Its focus is more shifted towards medium-sized and smaller animals like sheep and deer and pets, so it's unlikely to straight up attack an adult human. Keyword adult human, as we learned about a story about a 12-year-old getting snatched by one of these guys and is now presumed dead. This rightfully has led to a bunch of parents becoming fearful and schools being shut down until this nightmare can be dealt with. The farmers in Texas are also struggling to keep their livestock alive as they just keep getting eaten away. All of these reports have culminated in an outcry from the residents, and rightfully so. We have rarely seen or heard anything from anyone about plans to combat this. In probably the most tragic news yet, the mammoth at the Toronto Zoo has fallen ill and has passed away. Truly, the worst day ever. However, at the zoo, there is still the baby mammoth, so not all hope is lost. But back to Australia, and it's clear they are getting it the worst, with the giant lizards still wreaking havoc, even declining the kangaroo population. Sounds like GPAC has decided to initiate a hunting incentive for this lizard. If you can take one of them out, you can get $2,000. But it's been highly recommended you don't attempt to hunt them down, considering a new species is about to make things far more difficult.
Thylacoleo, it's
Thylacoleo.
The Thylacoleo, aka the marsupial lion. This is by far one of the most dangerous yet. Utilizing stealth and its strong bite force, this creature is a force to be reckoned with, and survival is highly unlikely. It's said to not run, avoid sudden movements, and make loud noises to try and get it away from you. The kangaroo population was already at risk, and now it's brought to a whole new level with this creature. In other, less terrifying news, however, in Colorado, the Brachiosaurus has emerged. Just like the mammoths, this one is a welcome addition. Visitors from around the world flock to witness the creature. However, it's still recommended to keep your distance because you don't want to be stepped on. Many people may be celebrating the return, but our environment may still be affected negatively. In areas where forests are being preserved and restored, these dinosaurs are eating 400 pounds of plants, dismantling this once restored forest. And while some people are calling for the hunting of this creature, GPAC is going to try and avoid that option. Just let them live in peace. We then reach the true nightmare. In Montana, there have already been 313 casualties at the hands of the T-Rex.
Please bear with us as we work to gather more details. This atrocity was led by none other than the tyrant lizard.
There have been 19 different T-Rexes reported. This is my actual worst fear. Aid has been sent for the survivors, but authorities have yet to be able to do anything about the giant dinosaur. The T-Rex stands at 20 feet in height and 44 feet in length, plus its bite force exceeds 8,000 psi. Montana isn't going to know what hit it. To make matters even worse, they are already hunting in packs. While learning about this creature, we end up cutting out to an image of this statue with distorted audio. Turns out this audio is reversed. Once we flip it around, we can hear what it actually says. Judgment is upon us. That sounds about right. The statue is also a representation of Quetzalcoatl. As expected, fear has spread across the US as the T-Rex and the Quetzalcoatlus begin to migrate to neighboring states. Firearm sales have gone up over 100% due to this ordeal. All of this carnage going on has even radicalized some groups into attempting to go out and hunt these creatures on their own, which is probably a really bad idea, especially when we learn the T-Rex can survive most headshots, and that's due to the brain being exceptionally small. Little dummies. Even a strange appearing T-Rex has been spotted, with more feathers and colors than the other, being referred to as the Daba. Which when looked up, I get frequent terms like beast of the earth or just beast. Sounds about right. Then we reach the end of the episode, with quite the grim note from the news report.
The prehistoric creatures now haunt the ocean, the land, and the sky. Nowhere is safe.
We do end up getting a post-credit tease. And remember what I said about the Dunkel not actually being the first apex predator? Well, it sounds like the true champion plans on making its return.
It has now been confirmed. The first apex predator has been spotted.
While on the outside, this series seems to only be about these prehistoric creatures coming back to life, there are definitely a few hints at something otherworldly at play here. Because when is it ever simple? The first mention was with the Hindu god Shiva, god of destruction, while also maintaining ties to the concept of creation. Could explain why there were so many animals brought back that are harmful to the earth and humans, and why other creatures like the mammoth and the brachiosaurus were brought back, who don't cause that many issues. It could all be Shiva's doing. But then we had two mentions of the Aztec deity Quetzalcoatl. While there are many different depictions and variations of this deity, its common associations are with the wind and rain, and knowledge as a whole. It's even sometimes believed he created the calendar. Perhaps his prehistoric emergence is just a code word for the rapture, and the earth will never be the same again. It could also just be Mother Nature deciding to get back at humanity, because let's be honest, humans are probably the worst thing that's happened to this place. At the end of the day, however, it's definitely unclear where these holes came from, and why this is all happening. It could be possible that all of these godlike figures being mentioned is just a sign of humanity's attempt at coming to terms with the situation at hand. And it truly is that these ancient creatures have lived in hidden regions all this time, and once a hole opened up leading them to our world, they decided it was time to come back and reclaim their place as the forces of nature. So far, I have thoroughly enjoyed Prehistoric Emergence. It takes me back a bit to the days of Jurassic Park analog horror, where the threat isn't ghosts or demons or weird diseases, but just the ancient wildlife who once dominated the planet. It adds more realism into the fear, as it's likely each of us have an instinctual fear just built in our DNA towards these predators. This series also manages to do a whole lot even though it's exclusively news reports followed with images of these creatures, which doing a whole lot with little is essentially the backbone of horror. All I can say is I would literally despise being stuck in this setting. But on that note, I definitely can't wait to see what comes next in this world of prehistoric emergence. Will humanity prevail, or will the Earth be taken over once more by creatures we once thought were lost to time? I can definitely recommend that you all check out this analog series if you haven't already, especially if you are a big fan of those Jurassic Park VHS tapes we have covered before in the past. But as always, if you made it to the end of this video, I thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to keep leaving me recommendations, whether it be in the YouTube comments or the community Discord where I always watch from my little cave. But if you'll excuse me, I just heard about T-Rexes in my area, and I'm getting the fuck out of town.